morning. Today we discuss about the powers and functions of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Powers and functions of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha means powers and functions of Parliament. What are the powers and functions of Parliament? We are going to discuss this topic today. Parliament exercise various powers. Some of the important powers exercised by Parliament are legislative powers, financial powers, executive powers, judicial powers, emergency powers, some miscellaneous powers are also there. Okay, these are electoral powers are there. So these are some of the important powers exercised by the Parliament. Today we will discuss about the legislative powers of Parliament. First we discuss about the legislative powers of Parliament. Parliament has the power to legislate on various matters. That means both houses of the Parliament are participating in the legislation procedure. Legislation means making of laws. In the legislation procedure, both houses of the Parliament take part. But in the case of a money bill, Rajya Sabha is not having a major role or an equal role with the Lok Sabha. Rajya Sabha is not having an equal role with the Lok Sabha. A money bill can be introduced only in the Lok Sabha. You remember, all the bills other than a money bill can originate only in either house of the Parliament. But a money bill can originate only in Lok Sabha. That is a privilege of the Lok Sabha. Money bill can be introduced and passed in the Lok Sabha only. Rajya Sabha has just an advisory role in the case of money bill. If a bill is declared as a money bill, then such a bill is introduced only in the Lok Sabha. And if the bill is passed in the Lok Sabha, then the Lok Sabha will send that bill to Rajya Sabha just for a consideration. Whether the Rajya Sabha agrees with that bill or disagrees with that bill, that is not a matter for a Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha has the ultimate power to pass it. If majority of the members are agreeing, majority of the members of Lok Sabha are agreeing with the money bill, that is seen to be passed in the Parliament. Okay. So remember, money bill is a special privilege of the Lok Sabha. It cannot be introduced in the Rajya Sabha. That means a money bill can be originated only in the Lok Sabha. Okay. Let's see the other legislative functions or legislative powers of Lok Sabha. Parliament as a whole, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. The Parliament has the power to legislate on matters in the state list, matters in union list, matters in a concurrent list. We know that administrative powers are divided between the union and the state government under three lists. There are three lists. They are the union list, the state list, and the concurrent list. So under these three lists, administrative powers have been divided between the central government and the state government, between the union government and the state government. So they are having power limitation. The union government can legislate on all the matters comes under the union list. There are 97 subjects mentioned in the union list, and on all these matters, only union government has the power to legislate. Whereas the state list has 66 subjects. There are 66 subjects in the state list, and only the state governments or the state legislature can legislate on all the matters, all the subjects in the state list. And both union and state legislature has the power to legislate on any of the matters in the concurrent list. Okay, this way the legislative power has been divided between the union government and the state governments. So they are having power limitation. Certain power has given to the union only, that is as their privilege. Certain power has been given as given to the states only, that is their privilege. And on certain matters, both union and state has equal role. But remember, on concurrent list, there are 47 subjects mentioned in the concurrent list. Suppose on a particular matter, a state government has made a law, okay, and on the same matter, union government has also made a law, and the provisions of the law made by the state government is different from the provisions of the provisions of the law made by the union government. Then regarding the same subject, two types of laws are prevailing. No, one law made by a particular state legislature and another law on the same subject made by the union legislature. And if there is any disagreement or if there is any difference between the laws made by union law and union legislature and the state legislature on the same subject, then that will create a confusion. People will be confused of which law is to be followed. Okay, whether to follow union law or state law. So, if there is any conflict on the case of law passed by union legislature and state legislature, then the union law will prevail. Ultimate priority will be getting to the union law only. Okay, if in case of conflict between union and state legislature on the case of a law passed on a subject in the concurrent list, the union law will prevail. State law will be considered as invalid. Okay. So, we did not go to the topic, legislative powers of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. First one, the union legislature or the parliament has power to legislate on all the matters in the union list, on all the subjects in the union list. The union government has, or the union legislature has the power to legislate, one of the legislative power. The second legislative power, the union government has the power to legislate on any matter comes under the concurrent list. Because we learned both union and state has the power to legislate on matters in the concurrent list. So, union legislature has the power to legislate on any matter in the concurrent list. Then, third one, another legislative power of the union parliament is residuary power. Residuary power. See here, we have learned three lists: union, state and concurrent list. So in these three lists, 97 subjects are there in union list. Okay, 66 subjects are there in a state list, and 47 subjects are there in the concurrent list. So other than these 97, 66 and 47 subjects, if there is a need to make a law on any subjects other than these subjects mentioned in the three lists, then union legislature only can make a law. Okay, if a need for a law on any subject which are not mentioned in any of the three lists, the union government can make a law. the power of the union government to make law on any subjects which are not mentioned in any of the three lists is called a residuary power. Okay, you have to learn two terms here. One is residuary power and one is residuary subject. Residuary subject is the subject that is not mentioned in any of the three lists. The union list, state list and concurrent list is termed as residuary subject. The subject which is not mentioned in any of the three lists, that is the union list, state list and concurrent list, is known as a residuary subject. And the power of the parliament to legislate on a residuary subject, on a residuary matter, is called a residuary power. So who is empowered to legislate on a residuary subject? Parliament only has the power to legislate on a residuary subject. State legislatures are not having any power in legislating on any matter in the legislating on any of the residuary subjects. Only Union Parliament has the power to legislate on residuary subject. So this is also a third legislative power of the Union Parliament. Then the fourth legislative power, that is, we have learned only the state legislatures are having the power to legislate on the matters in state list. But in certain case, Union Parliament has the power to legislate on matters in the state list as well. Okay, so Union Government has the power to legislate on matters in the state list, that is under exceptional situation. Okay, a normal case, the Union Parliament has no power to legislate on matters in the state list. And the exceptional cases are, if the Rajya Sabha passes a resolution that a subject mentioned in the state list has of high national importance. Okay, Rajya Sabha, how Rajya Sabha passing the resolution? Rajya Sabha passes a resolution with the 2/3 of majority. Okay, simple majority is there, 2/3 majority is there. Okay, means minimum 2/3 of the members of Rajya Sabha should be vote in favor of that resolution. That is called a 2/3 majority. So, if Rajya Sabha passes a resolution with the 2/3 of majority that a subject mentioned in the state list has of high national importance, then the state legislature will not have a right to legislate on that matter. Instead, Parliament will legislate on that matter in the state list. Okay. So, Rajya Sabha can empower the Parliament to legislate on a matter in the state list by passing a resolution by 2/3 of majority stating that the matter mentioned in the state list has of high national importance. Okay. This situation, who will legislate on that matter in the state list? Union Parliament. Okay. Then another situation, if two or more than two states, if minimum two states or more than two states demand the Parliament to legislate on a matter in the state list, then also Parliament gets the right to legislate on that matter. If two or more than two states demanding the Parliament to legislate on a matter in the state list, then Parliament will get the right to legislate on that matter in the state list. But condition is there. If Parliament legislates on the matter in the state list on the request of two or more than state legislature, such a law passed by the Union Parliament will be applicable to those states who made the request. It would not be applicable to all the states. Okay. This is another legislative power of the Union Parliament. The next one is ordinance. Parliament has the power to make ordinance or pass ordinance. Ordinance is an executive order issued by the President or Governor. Okay, in state level, the Governor can issue ordinance. An executive order passed by or issued by the President is called ordinance. We are mentioning here President because we are learning about the Union Parliament. Okay, if it is state legislature, then we can mention the governor has the power to legislate. Governor has the power to issue order. Such an order is also called ordinance. The executive order issued by the president is called ordinance. An ordinance can be issued by the president only when the parliament is not in session. Normally the laws are passed during the session of parliament. In sessions we have learned what is session. So during the session of parliament, laws are passed. But there is an urgent need of a law, but parliament is not in session also. Then law cannot be passed. Okay. If parliament is not in session and there is an urgent need of law, in order to compensate that situation or in order to compensate the law, the president pass an order related to that subject. On which subject or on which matter a law is required, on that matter president issues an order, president makes an order. Such an order of the president is called ordinance. So ordinance can be proclaimed or issued by the president when the parliament is not in session, when both houses of the parliament is not in session. Okay. Remember the situation when ordinance is passed, when both houses of the parliament is not in session, or ordinance can be passed or ordinance can be promulgated. And this ordinance is promulgated or ordinance is issued by the president on the request of the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. On the request of Prime Minister and Cabinet, ordinance is passed by, issued by the President. Such an ordinance should be passed by the Parliament. That we will learn. Okay. Such an ordinance will be passed by the Parliament. That is later. Under what condition an ordinance can be passed? A question. Under what condition an ordinance can be passed? An ordinance can be passed under the condition that, under the condition of times that within 6 months of the issuing of that ordinance, that should be passed by the Parliament. Okay, Parliament must pass the ordinance. You know, ordinance is passed by, issued by the President, not passed. Ordinance is issued by or promulgated by the President when Parliament is not in session. Okay, and if the ordinance that should continue as a law, it is a temporary law. Ordinance is a temporary law. Okay, it should be continued as a law. Then members of the Parliament should agree with that ordinance, and it was issued when there was no session. And we know that as per our constitution, there should be 2 minimum sessions in a year, and the gap between these 2 sessions shall not be more than 6 months. Okay, so anyhow, within 6 months of the issuing or promulgating of the ordinance, there shall be another session of the Parliament. And in the next session of the Parliament, the matters related with this ordinance should be discussed in both houses of the Parliament. And majority of the members are agreeing with this ordinance, or this ordinance is getting majority support, then ordinance is passed by the Parliament. If majority of the members are against the ordinance, disagreeing with the ordinance ceases to operate. Cease to operate means stop its functioning. Ordinance will not be acting as a law. Okay, its validity gets over. So here we are learning about the ordinance, and on the request of the Union Cabinet, President can promulgate ordinance. Such an ordinance should be passed by the Parliament within 6 months of time. So passing the ordinance, that is the power of the Parliament. That is the legislative power of Parliament. Okay. When we were discussing about the legislative power of Union Parliament related with state list. Subject in the state list, I forgot to mention one more thing. The Parliament has the power to make laws or pass laws in the state list in one more situation. If there is an emergency, if there is a national emergency or a state emergency that is called a president's rule in a state, the Parliament has the power to legislate on the matters in the state list. During the time of emergency, Parliament has the power to legislate on matters in the state list. Because during the time of emergency, the state legislature may be suspended or dismissed. It can be kept in suspended animation or it can be dismissed. If it is dismissed or it is kept in suspended animation, it will not be active. The state legislature will not be active, and the Parliament can legislate on the matters in the state list during the time of emergency. So, three situations the Parliament can legislate on the matters in state list. One is if Rajya Sabha passes a resolution with a 2/3 majority. Second one, two or more than two states demand the Parliament to legislate on a matter in the state list. And third one, during the time of emergency. In this situation, the Union Legislature will legislate on matters in the state list. Then another legislative power of the Union Legislature is it can legislate on all the matters in the Union list. Then a third one is it can legislate on all the matters in the Union list. Then another legislative power of the Union Parliament is a fourth one, that is the power, residuary power. Okay, residuary power. Then now a fifth legislative power of the Union Parliament is power to pass ordinance. It can pass ordinance. So these are some of the main legislative powers of the Union Parliament. Now we will go to the financial powers of Union Parliament. Union Parliament possesses many financial powers. First one is the passing the budget. Passing budget. Okay. When we start this topic, beginning of the powers of the Parliament, I mentioned that money bill, that is the special power of Lok Sabha. So it cannot be called as a power of Parliament, because Parliament is the total union of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha together is known as Parliament. So here, in the case of money bill, Rajya Sabha has no role, only an advisory role. That's why money bill is not coming as the financial power of Parliament. Instead, that's the financial power of the Lok Sabha only. So we are discussing the financial powers of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. First one, passing the budget. The Union Finance Minister introduced the budget in the Parliament or in the Lok Sabha. Union Finance Minister. Okay. Budget means the income, an estimate of income and expenditure for the coming financial year. For the coming financial year, how much money should be collected in the form of tax and the other means, and how much money to be spent for various departments. That is calculated advancedly at the beginning of the financial year. So this financial statement is called a budget. An estimate of income and expenditure for the coming financial year is called a budget. This budget is made by the Union Finance Minister, and the budget is introduced in the Parliament or in the Lok Sabha by the Union Finance Minister. And after introducing or after reading the budget, members of Parliament discuss on the budget. They conduct a discussion on the budget, and after this discussion, they will put the matter to vote, put the budget to vote. Majority of the members are agreeing with the budget is passed. So budget is passed by the Parliament. Union budget is passed by the Parliament. Suppose when the budget is put to vote, if majority are against the budget, then budget cannot be passed. Okay, if budget cannot be passed, that means the Parliament or the government has no majority support. If budget is not passed, the government has to resign. Okay, that is we are not going deeply into that matter. So So passing the budget, union budget, that is the financial power of Parliament. Then passing a supplementary grant, that is also a financial power of the Parliament. Suppose the money or the amount mentioned for a particular project or a particular matter, that is not sufficient. More money is required. If more money is required, in such cases, the minister can make a demand for additional money. Okay, if a project, any railway project that has an estimated amount of some 50,000 crores, to be spent for any development works in the railway. But when it conducted the functioning, the money was not sufficient. We required more amount in order to finish that project. Then the ministry can put a demand for a fresh grant. Ministry can make a demand for allotting more money in order to finish that project. Okay, and that is called a supplementary grant. And such a supplementary grant is introduced in the House. Members of the Parliament will discuss, and if majority, on the basis of majority's opinion, supplementary grant is allotted. If majority are not in favor of that, supplementary grant will not be allotted by the Parliament. So, supplementary grant, that is also a financial power of the Parliament. Another one is vote on account. There is a procedure held in the Parliament, vote on account. Normally, the budget session or budget is passed. We know budget session. Budget session, that is between February and May will end. Budget session is between February and May. But normally the budget session will be over between February and March. Normally it will be over because the new financial year starts with the 1st of April. And if the budget is not passed before April, the executive will not have any money to spend, because by 31st March the financial year is getting over and all the accounts are closed by 31st March. Then if the executive have to spend a single money, then that money should be taken from the new budget as per the new budget. And if the new budget is not passed, the executive will not have any money to spend. Under such situation, the ministers or the executive can withdraw money, or they can take loan, okay, from the contingency fund, okay. And this this can be passed by the Parliament, okay. A device called vote on account can be passed by the Parliament, and through that procedure or through that device, through the vote on account, the executive can withdraw money from the contingency fund, and when the budget is passed, they have to pay back the money in the contingency fund. This is just as taking a loan. Okay, they are taking a loan, and from the what is called a fund, contingency fund, the consolidated fund, like these funds are there. So they are taking a fund from the contingency fund, and when the budget is passed, they are paying the amount back in the fund. So this process, that procedure, that is called vote on account. So vote on account, that is also passed by the Parliament, and if vote on account is passed by the Parliament, the executive will be able to spend money if in case budget is not passed before 1st of April. Okay. Then next, the salaries and allowances of the MPs are decided by the Parliament. All the salaries and allowances of the MPs are decided by the Parliament. That is financial power of Parliament. Then, if new taxes are to be imposed, if there is a need for imposing a new tax, or in order to make any alteration in the amount of an existing tax, it can be done only with the permission of Parliament. Only Parliament has the power to impose a fresh tax or to change an existing tax. That's also financial power of the Parliament. So some of the financial powers of Parliament, the first one is passing union budget, second one passing a supplementary grant, third one vote on account, then fourth one salaries and allowances of the MPs, then fifth one is what is it called just mentioned passing this fresh tax, imposing fresh tax or altering the existing tax. These all are the financial powers of the Union Parliament. Then besides this, Union Parliament has electoral powers. Electoral power. The members of Parliament, that means the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha members, they are participating in the election of President, election of Vice President, also the members of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha participating. So since they are participating in the elections of President and Vice President, the members of Parliament possess electoral function also. Okay. The members of Lok Sabha are participating in the election of Speaker and Deputy Speaker. The members of Rajya Sabha elected the Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha. But actually, this cannot be termed as the powers and functions of Parliament, because Speaker is elected by the members of Lok Sabha only. Deputy Chairman is elected by the members of Rajya Sabha only. That's why we cannot say it is the power of Parliament. That is the power of Lok Sabha. Speaker's election, that is power of Lok Sabha. Deputy Chairman's election, that is the power of Rajya Sabha. But both the members are participating in the election of President and Vice President. So since they are participating in the election of President and Vice President, that is they are having electoral functions also, electoral power also. Then another power is constitutional amendment. They can amend the constitution. Okay. Parliament has the power to amend the constitution. Any bill related to the amendment of constitution can be introduced in any of the house of the Parliament. What specialty is there? Constitutional amendment. On a bill related to the constitution of amendment of constitution, that is on a minor matter, a simple matter, then such an amendment can be passed by a simple majority of the Parliament. But for amending the constitution on important matters, special majority is required. Special majority, that means 2/3 of the members present in the House or present in the Parliament plus majority of the states also. That is called a special majority. Okay. If a constitutional amendment bill on an important matter is passed by the Parliament, for passing such a bill, special majority is needed, and special majority, that means 2/3 of the members from Lok Sabha has to agree with it, 2/3 of the members from Rajya Sabha has to agree with it, and a majority of the state. After that, the bill will be sent to the, after passing the bill, it will be sent to the state legislature, and more than half of the state legislature also will be agreeing with that. Such then only that constitution amendment bill can be passed. So this type of majority is called a special majority. Okay, Parliament can amend the constitution, and the amendment of constitution, both the houses of the Parliament has equal footing or equal power. In the case of amendment of constitution, both houses of the Parliament is having equal power. In normal cases, if a bill is introduced in any of the House of the Parliament, other than a money bill, a bill is introduced in any of the House of Parliament, and that House is passing the bill. Okay. If the House is passing the bill, then the bill is sent to the other House. When it is sent to the other House is rejecting that bill, then there is a deadlock. One House passed the bill, the second House is rejecting the bill, then there is a clash, a deadlock between these two houses on that bill. If there is such a deadlock arise on a bill, then a joint sitting is held by the president. President calls a joint sitting. In the joint sitting, members of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha sits together. Members of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha sit together, and again they will discuss on the matter and they will put the matter to vote. And in that voting, whether majority of the members, means altogether members of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, irrespective of their houses, they are all together voting, and in that voting, if majority is supporting the bill is passed, and if majority is opposing the bill is rejected. Okay, that happens in normal case. But in the case of constitutional amendment bill, there is no joint sitting. If there is a deadlock between Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, there is no joint sitting. To pass a constitutional amendment bill, both houses must pass that bill. One house is passing the bill, other house is rejecting. The bill is rejected. There is no deadlock. Remember that. Okay. In the case of constitutional amendment bill, if there is a deadlock between the two houses, the matter cannot be settled by a joint sitting. But in the case of other bills, if there is a dispute or if there is a deadlock, then the president can call a joint sitting, and in the joint sitting, again the matter will be put to vote, and on the basis of the majorities, the matter is solved. Okay. So, in the case of constitutional amendment bill, there is no, if there is a deadlock, there is no solution. Okay. Solution is only both houses of the parliament should accept that bill. That's all about today's powers and functions of parliament. Some more powers and functions of parliament we have to discuss. We will discuss it in the next class. Okay, read the lesson. Read this topic well. Thank you.